The Apex were known across the galaxy as the strongest beings ever recorded. Their ships were large and dark, built like weapons instead of homes. Their bodies were tall and heavy, shaped by hard gravity and endless war. Stories about them filled council archives and spacer bars. The stories said the Apex destroyed worlds. They said the Apex felt no mercy. Because of this, most races avoided Apex space completely. When an Apex patrol appeared, others fled. The human ship Pathfinder did not plan to enter Apex territory. A navigation error during a jump pushed the ship far off course. Alarms rang softly as the stars shifted back into place. Outside the viewports, space looked darker, thicker somehow. The ship's system struggled to name the region. Then the sensors screamed. 3 massive ships appeared ahead. They moved with slow purpose, like predators that already knew their prey could not escape. Their hulls were black and scarred, marked by old battles. Energy readings spiked. The bridge fell silent. Michael, the ship's commander, felt his throat tighten. He had read the files. Everyone had. Apex patrols did not give warnings. They did not talk. They ended threats. Council protocol says retreat, someone whispered. But our drives are still cooling, Michael said. We can't jump. A message flashed on the main screen. It was short and cold, translated by the ship's systems. Unidentified vessel. Halt. Fear moved through the crew like a living thing. Some reached for restraints. Others closed their eyes. James stood near the center of the bridge. He was not a soldier. He was a diplomat trained to speak when others could not. His hands shook, but his voice stayed steady. We were taught this, he said quietly. Running confirms fear. Emily stood beside him. She was a cultural analyst chosen for calm thinking under pressure. Her face was pale, but her eyes were focused. The council warned us never to speak to them directly, she said. But they also said no one ever tried. Michael looked at them, then at the screen. The Apex ships drifted closer. Send a response, Michael said after a long moment. Peace signal only. James stepped forward. He took a breath and spoke into the transmitter. This is the human vessel Pathfinder, he said. We entered this space by mistake. We mean no harm. We request permission to explain. The seconds that followed felt endless. No reply came. The Apex ships adjusted their position, forming a silent wall. Emily leaned closer to James. They may be deciding whether to destroy us. James nodded. Then let them see us clearly. Another message appeared. Transmit visual. The bridge crew froze. Visual contact meant exposure. It meant being seen. Michael swallowed. Do it. The screen shifted. A towering figure filled the image. The Apex commander stood upright, armored in dark metal that followed the shape of his body. His eyes were deep-set and bright, fixed on James and Emily. He did not speak at first. He only watched. James felt the weight of that stare. Every story he had heard pressed against his thoughts. Monsters. Killers. Beasts. He pushed those thoughts aside. My name is James, he said slowly. This is Emily. We are human envoys. We respect your space. The Apex commander tilted his head slightly. It was a small movement, but it showed curiosity. You do not show fear, the commander said at last. His voice was deep, rough, and clear. Why? Emily answered before James could. Fear can close doors. We prefer to open them. The Apex paused. His eyes shifted as if listening to others off-screen. You know what we are, he said. Others run. James nodded. We know what the galaxy says about you. We also know the galaxy has been wrong before. That answer caused movement behind the commander. Other Apex shapes appeared, tall and watchful. Low sounds passed between them. You speak without shaking, the commander said. Your hearts beat fast. But you stand. Emily placed her hands in front of her, open and empty. We come without weapons raised. If we have offended, we will leave when able. Silence returned. The Apex commander studied them longer this time. His gaze moved from James to Emily, then beyond them to the humans working quietly on the bridge. No one reached for weapons. No one shouted. Finally, the commander spoke again. You are inside our patrol line, he said. By law, this space is closed. James bowed his head slightly. Then we ask forgiveness for the error. Another pause. The Apex ships did not fire. They did not move closer either. You ask, the commander said slowly. Others demand. Others lie. Emily felt her breath ease just a little. We are tired of lies, she said. They lead to war. The Apex commander made a low sound. Might have been laughter. It might have been something else. You are strange, he said. Humans? James met his eyes. So are you to us. For the first time, the commander's expression changed. Confusion crossed his face, clear and unhidden. You do not call us monsters, he said. We don't know you well enough to name you, James replied. That answer passed through the Apex group like a ripple. They spoke among themselves in deep, fast tones. The human translators struggled to keep up, missing much of it. Minutes passed. The tension on the bridge slowly shifted into something else. Not safety. Not yet. But possibility. The commander turned back. You will remain where you are, he said. We will observe. Michael exhaled quietly. Observation meant survival, at least for now. Thank you, Emily said. The screen went dark. The Apex ships held position, no longer advancing. Around the bridge, humans began to breathe again. Hands unclenched. Shoulders lowered. James sat down heavily, his legs weak. Emily rested a hand on the console to steady herself. They listened, she said softly. James nodded. They did more than listen. They wondered. Outside, the Apex ships remained silent guardians in the dark. Inside them, Apex warriors spoke in low voices, unsettled by what they had seen. Creatures who did not flee. Who did not beg. Who did not hate. For the first time in a very long time, the Apex did not see prey or enemies in the stars. They saw a question. And the galaxy unknowingly held its breath. The quiet did not last long. Hours after the first contact, new ships appeared at the edge of the system. They were not Apex. Their hulls were smaller, sharp, and brightly marked with the symbols of the Galactic Council. They came in fast and spread out wide, weapons warming as soon as they arrived. To them, this scene could only mean one thing. Humans had been trapped by Apex hunters, and a battle was about to begin. On the Pathfinder, warning lights flashed again. Multiple vessels, a sensor officer said. Council patrol group. They're locking weapons. Michael felt anger rise in his chest. They didn't even ask. The Apex ships shifted in response. Massive forms moved into new positions, silent but ready. Energy readings climbed on both sides. Space itself seemed to tighten, waiting for violence. James watched the screens, his jaw tight. If they fire, the Apex will answer. And we'll be caught between them. Emily nodded. Fear is speaking for everyone but us. Before anyone could stop him, Michael opened a wide channel. His voice carried across the system. This is the human vessel Pathfinder, he said. There is no battle here. Stand down. The reply came at once, sharp and angry. Withdraw immediately. Apex forces are hostile by nature. Move away. Jessica, the chief engineer, looked up from her station. Hostile by nature, she muttered. Funny how they haven't fired. As if to answer, one of the Apex ships broke formation. It drifted slowly away from the others. Sparks flickered along its side. A deep scar ran across its hull, fresh and unstable. Daniel leaned closer to the sensor display. That ship is damaged. Badly. Power flow is uneven. On the Apex channel, a new signal appeared. The same commander from before spoke, his voice strained but controlled. Our vessel was struck earlier by debris, he said. Containment is failing. The Council ships reacted instantly. Weapons charged higher. There, a Council captain said. They're weakened. Now is the time. Michael slammed his hand on the console. No. Without waiting for orders, Jessica moved. Michael, give me permission to speak. He hesitated, then nodded. This is Jessica, human engineer, she said. Your ship is damaged. We can help stabilize it. Silence followed. Even the Council ships seemed to pause, confused. The Apex commander answered slowly. Why would you do this? Jessica swallowed. Because if you lose containment, you'll lose lives. We don't trade help for profit. The words hung in space, simple and unguarded. The Apex did not respond right away. Inside their ships, warriors argued. Trusting outsiders had never ended well. But the damage grew worse with every passing moment. Finally, the commander spoke. Approach under escort. Any sign of betrayal will be answered. That's fair, Michael said quietly. The Pathfinder moved forward, guided between the massive Apex ships. Council vessels shouted protests, but none fired. Curiosity now mixed with their fear. Jessica led the repair team. Humans moved in pressure suits, small figures beside the dark Apex hull. The damage was severe but clear. A fractured conduit bled energy into space. As they worked, Daniel watched from a nearby platform. Apex warriors stood around the humans, towering and armored. Their weapons were held low, not aimed. A sudden alert rang out. A council drone slipped free from its formation, moving fast toward the repair site. Its weapons armed. Daniel's heart jumped. Incoming threat. Before the humans could react, the apex moved. Two warriors stepped forward, placing themselves between the drone and the human workers. Energy shields flared to life. The drone fired once, then twice. The blast struck the shields and faded. The apex did not return fire. They simply stood. Daniel stared. They're protecting us. On the council channel, voices shouted in confusion. Why are the apex shielding the humans? Jessica finished sealing the conduit. The energy bleed stopped. The ship's system stabilized. It's done, she said, breathing hard. The apex commander appeared on the screen again. His expression was unreadable, but his voice carried weight. You could have used this moment, he said. You did not. Jessica nodded. We said we would help. That was enough. Around them, the apex warriors slowly lowered their shields. They looked at the humans differently now. Not as fragile beings, but as something unexpected. Daniel felt a strange tightness in his chest. Every story he had learned about the apex began to crack. Monsters did not shield strangers. Monsters did not wait. On the council ships, weapons powered down one by one. Fear gave way to doubt. The apex commander spoke one last time. You may remain. Observation continues. Michael leaned back, exhausted but alive. Observation, he said. That's a start. In the silence that followed, humans and apex shared the same space, not as enemies but as witnesses to something new. Small acts. Simple choices. And fear slowly began to lose its grip. The council's answer came the next cycle. Its message filled every screen on the Pathfinder, sharp and cold. The words were formal, but the meaning was clear. Humans were ordered to leave apex space at once. No more contact. No more aid. The council called the situation unstable and dangerous. They claimed the apex would turn violent without warning. John listened in silence as the message ended. He was the human mission leader, chosen for patience more than strength. He looked around the bridge at the tired faces of his crew. None of them looked convinced. Lauren stood beside him, arms crossed. She had spent hours studying apex movement and behavior since the repairs. If they wanted us dead, she said, we wouldn't be here. Michael nodded. They had every chance. John took a slow breath and opened a channel back to the council. We acknowledge the order, he said. But we request time. There is ongoing risk. Leaving now would end lives. The council replied almost at once. Your presence is the risk. Lauren leaned forward. That's fear speaking, not reason. John closed the channel. He did not look angry. He looked tired but steady. We stay, he said simply. No one argued. The crisis came sooner than expected. Deep in the system, sensors detected a chain of energy failures. Old debris fields, left from forgotten wars, were shifting under strange gravity tides. One field moved directly toward an apex outpost, a place filled with non-combat workers and young trainees. On the apex ships, alarms sounded. The debris was massive. Too fast. Shields would not hold. David watched the data scroll across the screen. He was a human analyst, quiet and observant. They're trying to intercept, he said. But they won't make it in time. The apex commander appeared on the screen, his voice firm. We will evacuate who we can. John stepped forward. We can help coordinate. Our sensors can predict the debris path more precisely. There was a pause. Trust still had limits. Do it, the commander said at last. Humans and apex worked together in tense silence. Data flowed across shared channels. Lauren guided evacuation routes, adjusting them as conditions changed. Her hands moved fast, but her voice stayed calm. Then something went wrong. A smaller apex escort ship lost power while covering an evacuation lane. It drifted directly into the debris path. On board were several apex youths still in early training. David's breath caught. They won't escape. Without orders, John acted. Redirect our ship. Full thrust. Michael hesitated. That puts us in the debris stream. I know, John said. The Pathfinder moved, its engines screaming in protest. Fragments struck the hull, rattling the ship. Warnings filled the bridge, but no one pulled back. The apex saw the move at once. Human vessel, withdraw, the commander ordered. You will be destroyed. Lauren spoke softly. Not today. The Pathfinder reached the drifting apex ship and extended its shields, thin but wide. Debris slammed into the barrier, tearing at it. The human ship shook violently. On the Apex channel, voices rose in alarm. Before the shield failed, Apex cruisers moved in. Massive hulls positioned themselves around the human ship, forming a wall. Their shields overlapped, stronger together. David stared at the display. They're protecting us. The debris storm passed seconds later, leaving twisted metal and silence behind. The escort ship was saved. So was the Pathfinder. In the aftermath, Apex warriors gathered around the human vessel. No weapons were raised. Instead they stood watch, alert and unmoving. David observed them closely. He saw no cruelty in their actions. No hunger for power. Everything they did was measured, careful, shaped by long survival in a violent galaxy. They don't rule by fear, he said quietly to Lauren. They rule by responsibility. The Apex commander opened a channel. His voice carried something new. Respect. You chose risk for those not your own, he said. This is not weakness. John nodded. It's duty. A long silence followed, heavy but not hostile. Then the commander spoke again. We will remember this. Around them, humans and Apex remained side by side, guarding the same space. Under pressure and danger, something solid had formed. Not an alliance yet, but a bond tested by choice and held by trust. The days after the debris crisis were heavy with quiet. Apex ships and human vessels stayed close, moving together through the dark like a single group. No one spoke of alliance, but no one spoke of leaving either. Ashley worked in a small room near the back of the Pathfinder. She was a recorder, trained to document events exactly as they happened. She did not shape stories. She captured truth. Her screens were filled with footage, audio logs, and shared data from both human and Apex systems. What she saw slowly changed everything. Old Apex records were opened, first in small pieces, then fully. Battle logs. Evacuation orders. Broken treaties. Entire systems marked as lost. The pattern was clear and painful. Again and again, other powers had pushed into Apex space, feared their strength, then attacked first. The Apex had learned one lesson early. Survive or vanish. They were never conquerors, Ashley said quietly as she reviewed the data. They were cornered. James stood beside her, watching images of ruined worlds. And the galaxy called them monsters because they didn't die quietly. Ashley nodded and continued recording. Every word. Every image. She knew this record would matter. The confrontation came without warning. A large council fleet arrived at the edge of the system, larger than before. Their formation was tight. Their weapons were active. They broadcast on every channel at once. Apex forces, the council commander said. You are ordered to stand down. Human vessels are to withdraw immediately. On the Pathfinder, the bridge filled with tension. Michael looked to John. They're here for war. John's face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. No, he said. They're here for control. The Apex commander appeared on the main screen. His posture was steady, his voice firm. We will not submit, he said. We will not strike first. The council commander scoffed. You expect us to believe that? Before anyone could answer, Ashley stepped forward. Her hands shook, but she raised her voice. Then let them see, she said. With permission from both sides, she opened a wide broadcast. Not a message. A record. Across the galaxy, screens came alive. Civilian networks. Trade hubs. Military stations. Everyone saw what Ashley shared. They saw the old attacks. The broken promises. The first strikes launched against Apex worlds. They saw evacuation orders given too late. Children moved underground. Cities burned. They heard Apex voices from long ago, not angry but afraid. This is why we fight, one old recording said. Because no one else will protect us. The council fleet hesitated. Murmurs spread through their ranks. This was not the story they knew. Still, some commanders pushed forward. A trick, one voice said. They manipulate sympathy. The council fleet advanced. Human ships moved with the Apex without orders given. Not into attack positions but into open space between both forces. Shields activated, angled outward. Lauren watched the formation, heart pounding. They're using us as proof, she said softly. No, David replied. We're using ourselves. The Apex ships slowed, matching the human movement. Massive forms aligned beside smaller hulls. Different shapes. Same direction. The council commander raised his voice. Humans, move aside. John answered calmly. We won't. Silence followed. Weapons remained charged. The galaxy watched, waiting for the Apex to do what they were feared for. They did nothing. No weapons fired. No threats issued. The apex held position, guarding evacuation lanes and civilian paths. Defensive. Contained. Ashley kept recording. "This is the moment," she whispered. "This is the truth." Minutes passed. Then longer. The Council fleet faltered. Orders conflicted. Some ships powered down weapons. Others followed. Finally, the Council commander spoke again, his voice quieter. "You choose restraint," he said to the apex. "Even now." The apex commander answered. "We always have. You simply never stayed long enough to see it." One by one, Council ships disengaged. They did not apologize. But they did not attack. Across the galaxy, reactions spread fast. Fear turned into shock. Shock into questions. The apex did not pursue. They did not claim territory. They did not demand justice. They stayed where they were. Ashley ended the recording and leaned back, exhausted. "They'll never be able to erase this." James nodded. "They don't need to conquer," he said. "They just needed someone to stand with them." In the silence after the fleets withdrew, humans and apex remained together, side by side in open space. For the first time in a long time, the galaxy saw the apex clearly. And nothing burned. The change did not come loudly. There was no grand speech at first, no victory call across the stars. Instead, it came as a quiet update in the deepest archives of the Galactic Council. Files were reopened. Old warnings were reviewed. Labels were questioned. The word monster was highlighted, paused over, and then removed. Across thousands of systems, records shifted. The apex were no longer listed as an uncontrolled threat. They were no longer marked for isolation or destruction. A new line appeared beneath their name. Species status: defensive, sovereign, misjudged. For many it was hard to accept. Fear does not fade easily. But the evidence was there, shared again and again. Ashley's recording spread faster than any weapon ever could. Civilians watched. Scholars argued. Young students asked why the truth had been hidden for so long. The Council did not apologize publicly. But they did something louder than words. They changed history. On the edge of apex space, the human ships prepared to leave. The crisis had passed. The Council fleet no longer hovered nearby. Trade routes reopened, cautious but real. James stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder, watching the stars drift slowly past. He felt older than when he had arrived, not in years but in weight. Emily stood beside him, her arms folded loosely. "Do you think they understand now?" she asked. James considered the question. "Some do. Some won't. But they can't unsee what they saw." The apex commander appeared on the screen one last time. His presence was familiar now, no longer heavy with fear. "You are returning to your world?" he said. Emily nodded. "Yes." "You chose risk for truth," the commander continued. "That choice echoes." James inclined his head. "So does restraint." For a moment no one spoke. Then the commander placed a hand over his chest, an apex gesture of respect learned long ago. "You will be welcomed here," he said. "Always." The channel closed. As the Pathfinder turned toward home, apex ships moved into position along the system's edge. Not in attack formation. Not in dominance. In watch. They stood guard at the stars, protecting borders that had once been crossed only by fear. Now they were seen. Now they were known. The journey back to Earth was quiet. No alarms. No tense meetings. Just the steady hum of engines and the slow pull of gravity returning them home. James spent much of the time thinking. He remembered the first moment the apex ships appeared, dark and silent. He remembered how fear had nearly spoken for him. Emily reviewed reports beside him, but her mind wandered too. "All we did was listen," she said softly. James smiled faintly. The galaxy forgot how powerful that is. When they arrived, there was no parade. No cheering crowds. Earth did not celebrate itself. That was never the point. Instead, the reports were filed. The recordings archived. The lessons passed quietly into training manuals and diplomatic courses. Humanity was not remembered for strength or conquest. It was remembered for standing still when running would have been easier. Far away, apex outposts adjusted to a new reality. Ships still patrolled. Warriors still trained. Duty did not vanish with understanding. But now, when apex sensors detected approaching vessels, the first response was not weapons. It was curiosity. Messages were sent. Signals returned. Sometimes fear still appeared. But now it was answered with proof. The apex were no longer alone in the dark. James and Emily stood together one evening watching Earth's sky. Stars glittered above them, distant and calm. "We didn't change them," Emily said. "They were already what they were." James nodded. "We just chose not to look away." Beyond the stars, the apex kept watch, silent and steady. Not as monsters. Not as legends. But as people. And the galaxy at last learned the difference.